Today I'm going to show you how to get started self-publishing your book on Amazon KDP. Now, maybe you're a writer who wants to self-publish their book without a traditional publishing deal. Or maybe you just want to make some extra money by publishing books through Amazon KDP. Either way, this video is for you. To get started, the first thing that you need to do is go to kdp.amazon.com. Here you can sign in with your Amazon account, or if you don't have an Amazon account, you can create one. Now, I can't go through this process with you because there's a very important bit of information here. You can only ever have one Amazon KDP account. If you have two, even if I was to create one to show you how to do it, that could lead to both of my accounts being banned permanently. So one really key piece of information here is just only ever have one Amazon KDP account, or you could risk losing all of your books and risk losing all of your income as well. Now we've got that out of the way, we can get started. So to set up your Amazon account, you will need the following information. You'll need your name, your business type, so whether you're an individual or a corporation, so that's basically if it's yourself or a publishing house, your date of birth, your country of residence, and an email. That's all of the author information you'll need for now, but then you'll also need to provide information about getting paid. So you need to complete a two-step verification, and then under getting paid, you need to add a bank account. This should be relatively straightforward. Most of you, I'm assuming, would have a bank account, so just enter the information here, and then we move on to the final part, which is tax. Now, this is a very important step to do. If you're making money online, you need to make sure you're adhering to all of the tax regulations to wherever you're publishing. And on Amazon, it's based around whether you're a US citizen or a non-US citizen. And why this is really important as well is that if you do your tax interview and you say that you're from the UK, like I am, for example, or another country with a tax treaty with the US, then you don't pay any withholding tax on your US sales. So this is important because if you don't do this properly, you might end up paying tax on US sales. And then when you come round to doing your end of year tax summary, you might end up having to pay tax again. So you're paying double tax when you don't need to. In order to get this set up correctly, you need a TIN number if you're a non-US publisher. And in the UK, a TIN number is basically your national insurance number. Different countries will have different TIN numbers, so just go on Google and search how to find my TIN number. And then hopefully when you filled in that tax interview form, you'll know whether you need to pay tax or whether you don't need to pay withholding tax. Okay, once you've done that and you've got your account set up, you just go back to kdp.amazon.com and click login, and you'll be taken to your bookshelf. On here, you can see and edit your books that you've already created, or like we're going to do today, you can create your very first book. So in order to get started, all you need to do is click that create button. On this page, as you'll see here, you've got four options. You can either do a Kindle book, which is an ebook, a paperback or a hardcover, which are your physical copies, or you can create a series. Now, a series is useful if you're writing high content, for example, and you're doing a trilogy. That way people can find all three of your books in order and they'll link nicely together on Amazon. But to start with, all we're going to do is we're going to create a paperback book, and we're going to go through the process, say if we're creating our very first colouring book. So taken through to the creating your book section, you have three parts to it. You have your details, your content, and then your rights and pricing. To kick things off, we're going through the details. So first things first, you select your language. For most this will be English, but make sure that you're selecting the right language for your book. And then we come on to the book title, which is one of the most important parts of your details. It's how people are going to find your book, and you need to make sure you're including the right keywords here, but also that you're not stuffing it with keywords. So here we're going to put an example colouring book. And then in the subtitle, we're going to put 100 plus colouring pages for adults. So the subtitle is optional, but it's an extra area that you can include your keywords and help your book to get found on Amazon. Moving down, if your book's part of a series, you can add that here. The edition number is only if you're doing a new edition of your book. So say if you wrote Lord of the Rings, you found loads of errors in your manuscript and you went and did a second edition, you'd add that here. But for us, we're going to leave that one for now. Moving down to the author section, this is where you'd put your author name. Now we're going to deviate away from this page for a moment and go to our author page. So you just need to go to author.amazon.com and that will take you to your author central area. In here you can log in with your Amazon account again, and this is where you can see all of the books that you've published. You're allowed up to 3 pen names on Amazon and you can set those up from here. I have one set up for my fiction work under my own name. I have quite a generic pen name which then covers a large range of all of my other work. And then I've got a dinosaur specific pen name for all of my dinosaur content. On here you can change between your pen names and you can see your sales rank and your reviews. Once you've set up your pen name, you want to enter that in the author section as it appears as a pen name. Here we're going to put creative contributors. That way it will appear on my Amazon Author Central page and it'll also link to the other books that are created under the same pen name. This is a great way to allow people to find other books that you've published. So say when you've got 100 books out there, if someone buys one of your books and really likes it, they can click on your author name and they'll be taken to all of your other books which will be linked nicely under your author name. Contributors is an optional section. So if you've got another author helping you out, co-writing your book, you'd include them here. So if George R.R. Martin really wanted to get involved with my colouring books and give me a nice excerpt, I could put them here as a contributor. Moving on, the description is one of the most important areas. This is the copy that sits on the product page on Amazon. So in here is where you sell your book. You want to include some keywords and there are some formatting options which we can go into. But this is an example of what my dinosaur colouring book looks like. And you can see here we've got a title, we've got a bit of a description and we've got some bullet points. So the formatting options in here are quite limited, but I would advise to make use of them. So if we go into the format section, you have normal, heading 4, heading 5 and heading 6. You also have the options to include bold, italics, underlined, numbered list and bullet points. The default for this is the what you see is what you get editor, but you can use the source and enter your own code as well, which might give you a little bit more freedom for how it looks on the page. But to start with, we're just going to use the default editor and enter a really top level description. So here I've added a title, I've bolded it and I've made it a header. And then I've also added some bullet points as well to break it up. And my advice would be to make sure that you include in loads of information about the product here so that people know what they're getting. So you want to include things like the size of your book, how many pages, and also the key selling points which are going to drive people to actually purchase your book. Now, one key thing to mention is that your description is editable after you publish, but your book title and your subtitle are locked. Now, if you make a small typo, like I've done before, what you can do is email Amazon and they might be able to fix it for you. But generally, for yourself, your title and subtitle are locked. So make sure you're happy with them by the time you publish because you can't change them. Publishing rights is whether you own the copyright to the work or whether it's a public domain work. Now, generally, you're always going to own the copyright. But if you are publishing public domain work, just be careful and make sure that you have read through the Learn More section here on Amazon. The next section is about adult only content. This isn't what some people think it is. This is only if your book is erotica. Now, say you've got a horror book which is aimed at over 18s, that's still not adult only content. Your adult only content, you only click this if you're doing erotica work. So the default for this will be no. I actually made a mistake with this when I published my first book. It was a horror, it was a thriller, but it was definitely aimed at an adult audience. So I clicked yes, not really knowing much about this, and it impacted my ads a lot. I found that a lot of my ads didn't serve, and I wonder if it's because it's limiting who can find my book. So here, make sure that you always click no under adult only content, unless you are writing erotica. The reading age is for kids books. So for example, if you're doing a 2 to 4 year old kids book, you might want to put that here. And your primary marketplace doesn't really seem to matter, but it's worthwhile just doing it anyway. The thing that it does affect is your categories. So for example, if I was doing sports, football on Amazon.com would probably be more like American football, whereas football on .co.uk would be more like soccer and Premier League content. This is also incredibly important if you are doing a foreign book. So if you're doing an Italian cookbook in Italian, then you definitely want to make sure you're doing your primary marketplace. But for now, we're going to leave it as Amazon.com. Next, coming down to the categories, this is incredibly important as well because people can find your book through categories, through hot new releases and bestsellers in the genre. You get to select up to 3 categories. So my advice would be make sure that you do select all 3 here. Annoyingly, you can't search, so you just have to go through and find the categories that suit your book the best. So we've got a colouring book, so we're going to try and find 3 categories that fit into that. So we found a colouring book for grown-ups category, and we've done general and humorous because let's say that this book is going to be a bit funny. None of those other categories look quite right, so we're going to have a look around to find something else. In the self-help section, we're also going to do a motivational category because it's going to be a funny motivational colouring book. And then we're going to click save. Those are our 3 categories. And then moving down to the low content book, this is if you're doing something like a notebook, like a journal, basically a template of a book for people to fill in themselves. So if you're doing a notebook, a journal, a planner, make sure that you click low content book. The downside to it being a low content book is you don't get given a free ISBN on Amazon, and therefore the look inside feature is not accessible when you're on your product page. But for now, for a colouring book, it's a medium content book, so we don't need to click this here. Large print is for anything with a font size of 16 point or greater. Now, some people click this for larger colouring books, but from what I've seen, it doesn't really seem to affect sales or ranking. So if you're creating a book for maybe seniors where you have a bigger font size, then it might be worthwhile clicking that here. So moving on to the keywords, these are incredibly important, and I'm going to create a video on this area completely by itself. But you want to make sure that you are filling in all 7 boxes here. Your book will have a chance to rank for these keywords that you enter here. So make sure that you've done some research. And one quick tip is just make sure you're including search terms that, make sense that you think people might be searching for. So I've got some basic keywords entered here, and we're going to click save and continue and go on to the next section. So on the content section, you either have the option to get a free Amazon KDP ISBN, or you can use your own ISBN. If you're using another site to publish like Ingram Spark, you can enter your own ISBN information here. But one of the benefits of publishing through Amazon KDP is that you can get a free ISBN. There are some limitations to this, however, which we're just going to look at now. Looking on the Amazon help page around should you use KDP ISBNs or buy your own, KDP offers a free ISBN, but one of the key downsides here to using the Amazon ISBN is that the free ISBNs cannot be used outside of the Amazon publishing service. So if you plan to publish your book elsewhere, it's recommended that you purchase and register your own ISBN. So essentially, if you want to go wider with your sales and publish outside of Amazon, then you need to buy your own ISBN. But for myself and for many others who just want to sell some books on Amazon, getting a free ISBN is absolutely fine. Next, you can pre-release your book if you want to select a future publication date, but generally I just leave that one blank. Moving down to print options, you can select the format of your book, whether it's black and white with cream paper, white paper, whether it's a standard colour interior, or whether it's a premium colour interior. You need to select the right one for your manuscript, and these will affect the costs of printing as well. For this one, we're going to do a colouring book, so we're going to do a black and white interior with white paper. Moving down to trim size, that is the size of your page. So we're going to do a 6x9 book. It's quite a smallish colouring book. but it's a standard trim size. Clicking on here, you can define your own trim size, or you can select from loads of standard sizes on Amazon. Next are bleed settings. Generally you publish without a bleed, but if you're creating a colouring book that you want to go to the edge of the page, or you do want your images or content to go right to the edge of the page, then you need to select bleed and you need to update the size of your manuscript pages. If you want to find out more about that, just make sure you click learn more and that will answer any of your questions. And then finally, within this little section, you can either select a matte or glossy finish to your book cover. Now, both are absolutely fine and it's completely your preference. My preference is with my fiction book, I use a matte cover, and for colouring and activity books, I use a glossy cover. But you can experiment and do what you think works best. Now we get into the real nitty-gritty exciting part of publishing your book, and that is uploading your manuscript. It says here that the recommended format is a formatted PDF. But if you've written your book in Word and you've got a doc or a docx file, you can also upload those. You can also upload a HTML file or an RTF file. My recommendation would be to export a formatted PDF and upload that, because you know it's going to look correct when you publish it on Amazon. So all you need to do here is click upload and select your file. Now, once that's uploading, we move on to the book cover section. There are two options here. You can either use Amazon's cover creator, or you can upload your print ready PDF cover. My recommendation, unless you're like a complete beginner, is to make sure that you're creating your own cover files. The Amazon cover creator tool is so limited, and on Amazon in today's day and age, you really need to stand out. And if you're creating a pretty generic, pretty simple cover creator image, it's not going to stand out in the right way. You know, if anything, it's going to stand out in the wrong way. So whether you're using a pre-made cover, designing them yourself, going on Fiverr and getting them created for you, I would highly recommend making sure your cover is as absolutely as strong as possible. I think the cover is probably the most important part of this whole process. So make sure you put your time and effort into creating a good cover. Now for a paperback, your cover here is the whole thing. It's the front, the spine and the back. For an ebook, it would just be the front cover. But to help you out with the right settings for this, all you need to do is go to kdp.amazon.com/cover-calculator. Here you can enter all of the information about your book and get a template for your design. So we're going to enter all of our information here about our book. You'll need to know the page count before doing your cover so that it's got the right size for the spine. But you just then click calculate dimensions and it will tell you the width, the height, the front cover, the safe area, everything you need to know for your cover design template. You can then download it and open it and drag that into Photoshop or Canva or however you create your covers. Then to upload your cover, you just click upload and you select your cover file just like we did with the manuscript. And then the final section below is just making sure that you click Launch Previewer. Here you can go through and preview your book. You can make sure that everything is inside the safe areas and you can check if there are any errors which will stop you from being able to publish. Once you've gone through your previewer, you're happy with how it looks, you then click Save and Continue and go on to the final section. Okay, and seeing as we don't have an example colouring book to upload, we're going to skip through to my Dinosaurs in Space book for this section and take you through the final part. So, territories. This is whether you have rights to individual areas or worldwide. Generally, you want to leave this on worldwide rights, unless, for example, you have rights to Disney only in the UK, then you just select an individual territory. But generally, you want to leave that as all territories. Then moving down, you have the pricing section. This is where you're going to set your prices for all of the different Amazon marketplaces. You can then see the printing costs and you can also see the amount of royalty you'll make for every sale. So at the moment in America, it's set as $8.99. I will only make $2.55 off of that sale. So you've got a $2.84 printing cost, and then we make 60% of the profit after those printing costs. So from $9, we make $2.50, and that is the cost of publishing on a print-on-demand service like Amazon KDP. So we're just going to update this now like we would from scratch. For launch, let's say we set this as $7.99. We would get a $1.95 royalty per sale. And then what you can do is click base all marketplaces on this price. And that will update all of the marketplaces below based on a similar sort of price as your primary marketplace. So it does give you some odd numbers, so it might be worthwhile rounding these up or down. I'm going to change the .co.uk to 649 as it's a bit of a nicer number and it also gives me a bit of a better royalty. But make sure you're happy with your royalties all the way down. So we will set these as $6.99 in Europe, and then I think we're fine with the rest. The expanded distribution is not available on low content books, but for medium and high content books, what that allows you to do is it allows other bookstores to publish your book through Amazon, allowing it to reach a wider audience. However, the royalties will only be a small fraction of the royalty, but it can help you get your book listed in other areas. So my high content books, for example, are listed on Barnes & Noble and Google because of that expanded distribution option. And getting down to the bottom of the very final part of the publishing process, you are almost ready to go live with your book. But this is a super important part, and especially if it's your first book, stop right now and take some time to do this. You can click here to request a proof of your book. Now, when you click that, it might take a few days to arrive in your Amazon basket, but then you can check out with a proof copy of your book. What that means is that you can check that everything is correct, that it's formatted correctly, that there's no errors before you actually go live. So especially if this is your first book, I would 100% give yourself, say, a week to make sure that you can order your proof, check your proof, and make any changes before going live. So no one expects it to be absolutely perfect the first time you do this. So go through, make sure there's no errors, and then go through and just make sure you request a proof. Trust me, it's worth it. Okay, so once you've reviewed your proof, or if you don't need to, you can just click publish your paperback book. That will send all of the information to Amazon, and you can expect your book to be live within sort of 1 to 3 days. Okay, and if you've gone through this walkthrough with me and you followed along, congratulations on publishing your very first book. You need to celebrate times like this. It's an amazing achievement. Not many people actually get around to publishing a book, so well done to you. I hope that this guide was helpful. You know, if I've missed anything out, let me know in the comments below and I'll get back to you. But yeah, I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.